Hello everybody, this is Christopher Massimo, and today I am with Brandon Howard to do a new 5v5. This time our topic is on the top 5 things that high school athletes need to do in order to make it to college. So first I'll go ahead and start off by introducing Brandon. He'll introduce himself, and then we'll jump in starting from 5 and making our way down to 1. So Brandon, if you can go ahead and tell them who you are and what you do.
Brandon Howard, work with Verified Athlete, the director of the DFW market. Actually work with kids in West Texas, East Texas, really no preference at all, but the entire goal is to help get scholarships, help them understand the recruiting process, and really get the most out of their opportunity.
And if you guys have listened to some of my other podcasts, you've probably heard Brandon's voice before, but I don't think anybody has seen you yet. So this would be the first time, unless you're hopping onto this video first. And if so, go ahead and check out those podcasts. I'll attach the links below. But let's go ahead and jump right in. My number 5, in terms of importance of what high school athletes need to do to make it to college, is don't screw up on social media. So I use a model that you guys have probably heard of called RAMP, which stands for Relationships, Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose. To me, this is A, R, and M: autonomy, relationships, and mastery. And that's why it's important. First and foremost, coaches are watching. You guys probably have a segment on this actually with your athletes. Talk to them about how not to screw up on social media, because coaches are watching both at the high school level and the collegiate level. The media is watching, especially if you're a high recruit. People are paying attention, and you can't take it back. You think you can delete what you've sent, but you can't. And let's just say you do make it to the NFL and it's draft day. We've seen the last couple of years tweets from years before being brought back up. Then finally, it's a time sucker. So it just consumes way too much of your time during the day, when you should be focused on academics, you should be focused on practice and all the other things that we know you need to be doing. If you're on your phone, you're scrolling, you're not doing those things. And we know today, there was actually a 60 Minutes, I don't know if you saw it, there was a 60 Minutes on how app developers today are mimicking slot machine casino type procedures with their apps to make it to where you have this itch to get in there and click that heart button on Instagram to see if any more likes. So my number 5 is social media.
I definitely think that that's a great point, valid. It's a little bit higher on my list.
Oh, okay, so it is on your list.
How important it is, and like you brought up with the Josh Allen scenario, just to pinpoint that example.
Not even a year ago.
Losing millions and millions of dollars. So for me, it is a little bit higher in the list. My 5 is definitely just to have a team of mentorship, making sure that family, friends, especially your close circle, is very knit, especially during the high school stages where everything matters, but you do need some extra help, whether that be from your coach, outside source like myself, but really just to develop those relationships in a higher degree, and just making sure that you can develop over time. A lot of guys, they go into the summer and want to slack off, or maybe even work hard, but don't understand how much hard work goes in to getting to the next level, whether that be Division III, NAIA, Division I. Everybody wants to go Division I, but Division I is pretty tough to get into.
They're all tough to get into.
1AA, etc.
Yeah, just look at the numbers.
So for me, the 5 spot is definitely having development, mentorship, and just making sure that your core group is set around you.
I think I actually have that broken down into 2 sections, 2 different topics on my top 5 that are a little bit higher. So it's interesting you bring that up, but I'm glad it's on your top 5. The one thing I do want to add, in case you haven't seen these videos before, is I have no idea what his 5 are, and he has no idea what my 5 are. So we're just kind of spitballing right now, and I like it that way because it's an opportunity for us to give our honest and really quick-witted opinions on what the other person has to say. So I had no idea that was his 5. My 4 is to create a healthy academic mindset. Okay, so this is A and M for me. This is autonomy and mastery. So you don't have to be the perfect student, but you do have to care. Let's be honest, most don't care. And a lot of colleges really don't have very high academic requirements for you to get in, but some do. Some really do have academic requirements for you to get in that require you to actually show up to class and make some B's. But more so than the actual grade itself, and a lot of parents or teachers will probably say this should be a little bit higher on my list, but the reason it's 4 is because I think I'm a realist in saying that a lot of athletes just don't care.
Yeah.
They would much rather spend their time in the gym after school than in study hall. And so I have it at 4, not so much because we want all of our student athletes to make A's. I mean, we do, but it's not going to happen. But because it's a mindset transition, meaning the way you approach the classroom is likely the way that you're going to approach practice, and it's likely the way you're going to approach games. It's a mindset transition that you take with you 7 days a week, including the weekends. What do you do on your weekends? Are you intentional about your rest? Are you intentional about your grades? Are you intentional about everything that you do? We want that to carry into the classroom. So more so than the grade itself, it's the transition of mindset for me that has a number 4.
I definitely like where you're coming from in that degree. Once again, that one's a little bit higher on my list.
Oh, okay.
Taking in perspective that I'm looking at from a recruiting standpoint
Sure.
of how you're going to actually get it to the next level. So for me, number 4 is actually developing those relationships with the schools, the universities, getting familiar with the campuses, and actually develop those relationships with the coaches. 9 times out of 10, guys either get a scholarship and don't follow up with the coach. They never even start the relationship with the coach, where you may be a D1 talent, but you've only put yourself in a D2 spectrum. And so really utilizing those opportunities, if you do get in connection with them, take advantage of it, continue that relationship, nurture it, because you never know. A coach can go from USC to SFA in a heartbeat, and you'd be surprised how much coaches transition, how often coaches get fired. You know, having that relationship is very important to me, and that's why it falls in place at number 4.
I should have put. I don't have that one anywhere on my list. I should have put that one on there. I'm glad you brought that up. I do regret not having that in my top 5. And I like the point you made about them transitioning. Head coaches are the only ones, assistants sometimes too, they really get a lot of publicity when they change from school to school. But the majority of coaches are not a head coach, the OC, or the DC. They're position coaches, strength and conditioning coaching staff,
GAs.
assistants. I mean, there's significantly more coaches outside of those 3 positions that move yearly. And to that point, just one more thing. The person you're going to spend the most time with typically is your strength and conditioning coach. So if they're moving around and you have a poor relationship, or you have a good relationship with them and they move, that's going to change a lot of things for you. Or if you have a poor relationship as well. Number 3 is find the right coach. So that's sort of what you said, but mine is actually geared more towards in high school, both who do you gravitate towards at your high school itself, and do you have a coach outside of high school? This is obviously in season, you're going to be with your team the majority of the time. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm a strength and conditioning coach. But the other 3, more than that, the other, 8 to 9 months of the year that you're not in season, you need to have somebody that you have a really good relationship with that will guide you mentally, spiritually, and physically. And to me, that's what a good coach does. They don't just put you in the gym and build you up physically. They don't just build monsters. They build really well-rounded people because, again, what I'm looking for is a transition of mindset. And so how are you going to get that transition of mindset? Well, you're going to get it by spending a lot of time with a particular individual who can help you carry that over. Let's be honest, it's a bottom line business, so measurables matter. So finding the right coach who can actually build you up to increase those numbers is important. Don't be slacking off in the summer. Most of you guys aren't going to go straight into D1 because you're not going to have straight D1 talent. So you're going to be that guy who's scrapping for a D2, D3 level offer, and that's going to come from grinding. And so a good coach to me, now that I'm talking through it, I might have put a little bit higher, but a good strength and conditioning / mentor type coach is huge for you to become the well-rounded athlete and person that you need to be.
I like where you're coming from. Once again, you have some really solid points. Although that is extremely important, not every guy will have the measurables maybe ever. And they can spend the entire summer working out and getting better and, doing the things to improve to get to the level that they want to. But sometimes it does take being in college and being around a certain environment, whereas in the high school environment, they are the biggest, the baddest, the best guy. But whenever they get to college, it's that competition, it's that grit, it's that scholarship on the line that makes the difference, that really brings out the most. Some guys are just going to have the opportunity, but some guys won't. And I really encourage guys to improve, like you said, but also my number 3, take advantage of social media. Social media for me is number 3 because, as we can see, once again, it continues to be pulled up. And Twitter, you notice that continues to be a really strong place to make your brand, put yourself out there. Your Twitter is almost your resume in a sense, where coaches live and breathe on Twitter. If you wake up at 5 a.m., you see coaches who do their morning routine every day. You see kids who put their offers out via Twitter. You see guys who you never would have imagined would get an offer just because of how they put their stuff in their bio, what they put out there. But also on the flip side, you see guys lose scholarships or get negative feedback on Twitter, and you just need to make sure that is your resume. That is what holds you accountable in a sense, because that is what people are going to see first and foremost if they're looking for you in a media standpoint.
I mean, I can't fight you on any of that. You just have it a little bit higher than mine, but I agree with everything that you said. My 2 is going to be choose your intimate relationships wisely. So I did a professional relationship with a coach at 3, but the majority of your time in life in general is spent with intimate relationships. So that's friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, family, and things of that nature. So those people are like elevators. They'll either take you up or they'll bring you down. And because you're spending the majority of your time with them, they're the ones that you're being impacted at a subconscious level from. So it's through modeling. So if you've ever found yourself repeating a slogan of a friend after hanging out with them for a long period of time, maybe they said that's the bomb for a year and now you're saying that's the bomb for some reason. Whatever it is, you'll find yourself mimicking the people that you spend a large amount of time with. You'll find yourself ideally and philosophically following those same ideas and philosophies that they have, not because necessarily you thought through it, but because you spent so much time involved in their life that it's kind of become a mesh point for you. And so that's R on my RAMP model, understanding where you are with your relationships. Do you have a healthy boyfriend or girlfriend relationship? Is that something that's dragging you down during practice? Are you thinking too much about them when you should be focused? How's your home environment? What's your relationship, especially for my males, what's your relationship like with your dad? How much pressure is he putting on you? I have an athlete right now. I don't want to give too much information because if they watch, they're going to know who I'm talking about. Dad was very successful, and current athlete does not know how to tell him football's not for him. I'll go that route. And that's a really difficult process. It seems very simple, but it's a really difficult process to look your dad in the eye and say, you know what, this just isn't something that I want to do anymore. So making sure that those relationships are healthy for me is number 2.
I like that. Like they say quite often, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's a big aspect in life. Surround yourself with those who you want to be like, and those who you want to see yourself succeed with. So I agree with that point strongly. For me, my number 2, looking at it from a recruiting aspect to get to college, is film and in-person evaluations. Film is going to be huge. It's going to tell what you can do whenever a coach does not have the opportunity to meet you in person yet. A lot of times, a coach may not come to your game. That's 10 years, 15 years in the past.
Right.
And so a lot of times, if you have good film, sometimes you can receive a scholarship offer or get attention just based off of your film alone. However, if you're looking for those top-notch scholarships, maybe the extra $5,000, $10,000 of scholarship money, which is what we're all looking for, that in-person evaluation needs to tie in with what your film looks like. Because if I see you on film and you look like a stud, but then I see you in person and you look like you weigh 15, 20 pounds less, I'm sitting there asking you, how does this not connect?
Right.
And what are you doing outside of film on the field to really connect the two? So for me, film is greatly important, but then back that up with in-person visuals.
And on that, you said they look 15, 20 pounds heavier. How many plays are you taking off? Because no one's going to put on film the play that they take off. And if you take 80% of your plays off, I think Clowney got knacked for that a little bit for taking
South Carolina.
plays. Yeah. So if you have that, he still went number 1, but that's not the point. The point is, for the majority of people, if they see you slacking off after seeing you on film, they're going to change their mind. So I agree with that. I also don't disagree that it's number 2 for your list.
Yeah.
So I can tell your list is coming from the premise of, I'm a recruiter, I'm trying to get you to college from a professional standpoint. I'm coming at it from a therapist,
exactly.
A sports psychology standpoint, like how do we get you mentally and physically prepared, mind-body kind of connection thing to get you to the next level, which brings me to my number 1, which is understanding that your mind and your body are one, that they're in sync, and that this matters, that you can't just show up, push a bunch of weight, go to class, sit there, take a nap, not care about your relationships, not care about why you're doing things. You have to be very intentional about everything that you do, because every time you sleep, it affects both. Every time you have a conversation with somebody, it affects both. Every time you study or don't study, it affects both. Everything that you do affects both your mind and your body, because they're synced and they're one. So for example, your mind quits before your body does, starting around age 12. So we know, that's junior high school, when people start looking at you. They start looking at you at 12, you're a stud. But it does happen.
A couple guys.
Yeah, there are a couple guys. But that's after age 12, the science shows that your mind can surpass your body, meaning that you can push your body to limits that you once couldn't. So if you have an 8-year-old who says, "Hey, Daddy, I'm really tired," like, you can trust him. You can be like, "Okay, yeah, he must be tired."
Yeah.
But if a 15-year-old comes to you and he hasn't really done anything all day and he says, "Hey, I'm tired," no, dude, you're just being lazy.
Yeah.
There's a difference, because their mind catches up to their bodies. And so understanding that after age 12, you have to be very intentional, because your mind's going to trick you into thinking that you're more tired than you are, which in turn is going to affect your body and how much you perform or how little you perform, which is going to change the way you eat, which is going to change the way you talk and the way you sleep. And it's just all one giant cycle. And I can go on forever about it, but I'm not going to. So my number one is be a chess player, not a checker player, and understand that your mind and your body are one. So think ahead with everything that you do.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit because there's multiple guys I work with where, yes, in degree I am there to help them get the scholarship, but there is a mental aspect and there is a mentorship aspect to what I do where guys, yes, you may receive a scholarship, but then they really want more, and then having to uplift them and help them understand, okay, well, at this point in time, this is why you're not receiving a scholarship. And then you actually need to step up in this regard because, hey, you're kind of slacking, and I can see that looking in your best interest, whereas other people, they're not looking in your best interest. They're looking for
money.
Who's on to the next one. And, you know, there's a lot of sheep out there, and you want to be the lion or the wolf, you know, getting fed, and instead of the sheep who's looking and searching for things.
Which brings what you kill.
Exactly. Which brings me to my number one, and I think this is kind of tied into what you have a little bit, but it's a reflection of you greatly. GPA and test scores, ACT, SAT. You know,
I got the academics number one.
Exactly.
Good for you.
You know, that can be the big difference. You know, of course, the measurables, the film, all of what I listed and what you listed as well are very important. But one of the first things I look at, and it's an indicator of what type of player you are and what type of person you are, is the GPA. You know, if you're slacking off in the classroom, or if you have a 3.4 when I first sign you up or meet with you, and then you fall to a 3.1, okay, what happened between the 3.4 and the 3.1? Especially going into your senior year. Did you get senioritis, or did you choose not to do it? And then depending on your position is tied into your GPA. Because if you're a quarterback and you're slacking, okay, what does that look like?
They're going to look at that, yeah.
You know, and so now you're hurting yourself, especially since GPA start 9th grade, and sometimes you have the opportunity to really start your GPA 8th grade if you're proactive. So really that GPA is going to be a big factor, but then also, since the GPA is so important, the test scores go hand in hand. And sometimes that can be the difference between getting a $30,000 scholarship and a $35,000 scholarship, because they're so intricately tied together. Whereas you knock out your test score and then you can maybe slack on the GPA. I wouldn't suggest it, but they play on each other so much, and that's one of the first things that coach is going to look at. Is this guy going to qualify? What type of player he is? Oh, well, that is tied together, because mentally, what can you anticipate? What can you think about on the field? Well, if you're not handling the classroom, how are you going to handle it on the field?
Yeah. I think that morally, I'm 100% with you. I wish that was, ideally, I think that would be number one. That's what I would want all my athletes to focus on, both from my mental athletes and my physical athletes, is getting good grades, because I'm a huge proponent of education. So ideally, I'm not against that number one at all. I think, especially from your perspective, and the way you were rating things, that makes perfect sense. Well, let us know if we missed anything. Let us know who got it right and who got it wrong. Who do you agree with more? Go ahead, let us know that. Tell us if one of our 5 shouldn't be in the 5, and if not, what would you replace it with? Go ahead and click that like button, hit that subscribe button, and go ahead and check out the rest of our content. This was 5v5, and I appreciate you all watching.